All right, let's dive into one of the most mysterious, just absolutely mind-bending stories in the entire Talmud. Seriously, it involves Moses, a strange vision of the future, and a question that cuts to the very heart of what divine knowledge even is.
So the story kicks off when Moses goes up to heaven to get the Torah. But what he sees is, well, it's not what you'd expect. He finds God doing something that seems almost whimsical. He's meticulously adding these tiny decorative crowns, they're called tagin, to the letters of the holy text. It's this beautiful but really puzzling image.
Moses is, understandably confused. And he asks the simple, direct question, Master of the universe, who is preventing you? Which is a great way of asking, why the extra flourishes? Isn't the Torah already perfect as it is? Why do you need to add these decorations?
And here's where things get really interesting. God explains that these aren't just for show. He says that centuries from now, a man named Akiva Ben Yosef is going to come along and he will be able to unpack entire worlds of meaning, mounds upon mounds of laws from every single one of these tiny crowns. They're basically packed with this latent, hidden wisdom.
So you can imagine Moses is just floored by this. He has to see this guy for himself, this incredible scholar who can see a depth in the Torah that even he, Moses, can't yet grasp. So he asks God, show him to me. And God says, okay.
What happens next is this incredible journey, a kind of spiritual time travel. Moses is about to be whisked away from his own time, this pinnacle moment at Sinai, and dropped right into the classroom of a future sage. God says these two words, return behind you. And poof, Moses finds himself in Rabbi Akiva's academy, sitting in the very back row just like any other student. I mean, just picture that for a second. The greatest prophet of all time is now just this anonymous guy in the back of a classroom centuries in the future.
And this is where the story takes a really shocking turn. You'd think, okay, Moses got the Torah straight from God. He, of all people, should understand what's going on, right? Well, the exact opposite happens.
He's listening to this complex legal discussion, and he has no idea what they are talking about. It's completely incomprehensible to him, which gives us this incredible paradox. The guy who literally brought the law down from the mountain doesn't understand the law being taught in his own name. And this isn't just, a little confusion. This is a full-blown spiritual crisis for him. The Talmud puts it so simply but so powerfully, his strength waned. He feels faint, he feels diminished. He starts thinking that maybe his own understanding of the Torah he received was somehow incomplete. But then, just as he's about to despair, everything changes. A student asks Rabbi Akiva, hey, where does this law come from? And Akiva's answer is just stunning. He says, oh, this is a law that was transmitted directly to Moses at Sinai. And in that one moment, Moses gets it. He realizes that this incredibly complex system is his Torah, even if it's in a form he can't recognize. So Moses returns to his own time, and now he has this massive question for God. It's a question coming from a place of pure humility and awe. He asks, you have a man like this, a mind this brilliant, so why me? Why give the Torah through me? Why not just give it to Rabbi Akiva? And God's reply is maybe the most famous and mysterious part of the whole story. He just says, Shtok, kach ala b'machshava lefanai, which means, shut up, so it arose in my thought. And for centuries, this sounds like a total shutdown, right? Like God is just saying, quiet, it's my business, not yours. But what if it means something else entirely? So how do we crack this code? To really unlock this story, we've got to turn to a 19th century mystical commentator known as the Ben Yehoyada. He comes along and offers a framework that changes everything. He says this whole story, from start to finish, is about two completely different kinds of knowledge.
Okay, so the first type he calls knowledge and potential, or bikoich. Now, think of it like this. Imagine downloading the entire internet directly into your brain in a single instant. It's not step-by-step, it's a complete, instantaneous grasp of a whole system of thought all at once. This, he says, is how a soul learns before it's born.
The second type is knowledge and actual, or bifol. Now this is how we learn, you and me, here in the physical world. It's linear, it's gradual, it's step-by-step. You can't just download the internet. You have to read every web page, one link at a time, over a whole lifetime. So now that we have these two ideas, potential and actual, let's go back to the story. Because this distinction doesn't just explain one part of it, it solves every single puzzle. It all just clicks into place.
So here's the big reveal from the Ben Yehoyada. When Moses saw Rabbi Akiva, he wasn't looking at a man in a classroom. No, he was seeing Rabbi Akiva's soul learning in heaven before it was even born. Moses, an embodied person, was operating in the world of the actual. He was witnessing knowledge in its pure potential state.
So Moses' confusion had nothing to do with him being less smart or less great. It was a compatibility issue. It was like trying to run a brand new, super advanced piece of software on an old computer. The computer isn't bad, it just can't process the information in that format. His actualized mind just couldn't handle the simultaneous, all-at-once data stream of potential knowledge.
And to really drive this home, the commentary gives this incredible analogy. It says that a soul, because it's not limited by a physical body, can learn something in 30 minutes that would take that same person 80 years to teach and explain once they're in our world. That is the massive gap Moses was witnessing.
And with this key, suddenly, God's mysterious answer, "Be silent, so it arose in my thought," isn't a dismissal at all. It's not God telling him to shut up, it's the actual explanation to his question.
Let's just break that down. When God said, "So it arose in my thought," he was literally telling Moses, what you saw, that was Rabbi Akiva's knowledge when it was still in the conceptual stage, in the realm of pure potential. Your job, Moses, is different. It's the equally vital task of taking all that infinite potential and starting the process of bringing it into the actual world step by painstaking step. He wasn't lesser, he was just playing a different, absolutely essential role. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, we have these two completely different ways of knowing, potential and actual. Second, that a divine revelation, like those little crowns on the letters, isn't a finished product. It's packed with infinite seeds of potential. And that means, third, that the entire project of human learning over thousands of years is actually this sacred task of making all that divine potential real. And this leaves us with a final, pretty mind-blowing thought. If this ancient story is right, then maybe all deep knowledge is like an infinite hard drive, just filled with potential. And the work of brilliant people isn't to invent something new, but to unlock and unpack what's already there. So the question for us is, if all that potential is still waiting, what incredible discoveries are just waiting to be made actual?